we've done the falls, so we've learnt all the falls, learnt all the mechanics and so on. So now it's time to actually put all these falls into practice, but a little more so than putting them into practice, learning how to respond from movement, technique, and then allowing these falls to come out naturally. Yes? The focus is how you respond with your body and stay connected so that you can actually follow the movement through to make the falls happen naturally and comfortably. That's, to me, probably the hardest part of the practice, because you don't want to commit too much, so you're doing too much for your partner, and you don't want to resist too much to give them, so to make it hard for them to do the technique at the same time. But if you follow with good connection and sincerity, you give them the reality of the movement of a true attack anyway, and you give them the opportunity to get used to using your own body weight. Okay, and then by doing that, they're learning how to do the technique, how to control your balance, how to move their partner, and learning the technique correctly. Ukemi is like 50% of the training. You're taking the falls, and then you're also doing the technique. So, personally, you've got to practice both sides, not just the technique and not just Ukemi. You want to do the two together. When you're being Uke, focus on what you're doing when you're taking your Ukemi. When you're being Nage and doing the technique, again, focus on your technique and make sure that you have good control of your Uke. Contact gives the reality of the technique, dealing with your partner's weight, their size, and so on. So contact in practice is very important. Not resistance and not giving too much, but giving them your body weight to deal with. So that means you have to have a supple attitude, so that you can follow. You don't want to be rigid to make it too difficult for them, and you don't want to be, you don't want to go in front of what they're doing. You want to stay exactly with them. And like I said, the way to do that is having good contact, but not good contact in the sake of having a good strong grip, but if you've got a grip of your partner, allowing the rest of the body to follow that movement from the contact that you've got with your partner. So that's very important too. You've got to do that and allow all the joints to move freely. Okay? So it's very important to think about contact. Contact is it's a thing that I think we forget a lot, because we get used to the technique so often, and we know that's the technique that's coming, so we tend to put ourselves in a position before it actually comes so we can do our fall at our own leisure, instead of allowing the Uke, or Nage I should say, to take you into that technique naturally. Okay? They've got to learn how to deal with someone's weight, their movement. They've got to learn how to make the technique work. It's not, to me, it's Aikido should be is a martial art that must work, not just purely dance or movement. Commitment is allowing Uke to have use of your body. So in some ways, there's got to be a little bit of trust. There's got to be a little give and take with both of you. You've got to be able to give them your body totally and stay connected and let them deal with that body weight. Okay, and so commitment is definitely a big thing too. In certain ways, it goes hand in hand with contact, because if you're throwing a punch or you're making a shomen or yokomen and your partner's there, you've got to be able to make it follow through so they know that you're actually coming to them. But at the same time, when they start to move, you allow yourself, okay, now I'll follow that movement and stay connected to that so they can practice the technique. So commitment also is very important. You must attack with some kind of reality, but obviously not with anger or anything like that. You're trying to work your partner so they get a real feeling of the technique. You've got to stay relaxed. You can't be tense. You can't be tight. Relax. So you have to be able to relax while you're doing the movement. If someone's got your arm in a pin or locked and you're being thrown, you can't afford to tighten the body. You've got to allow it to relax. Okay, so you've got to allow all your joints to move freely. You've got to allow the hips to stay loose so you can go into the fall. If something's coming towards your face, you've got to not make your head tight, otherwise you'll get hit. So you've got to allow everything to be very pliable. So you have to be able to relax. And big thing I do when I start class, I do a lot of stretching, so people get used to being, start to get flexible. It's very hard to do some of these movements or techniques or to respond in a nice, in a way that's connected if the body's very tight. So you want to relax physically and you want to relax mentally, but at the same time, give good contact and be committed with your attack. You've got to be sincere with your attack also. So you can't attack and go, okay, let me help them out, because they're not doing so well, or they, they're not. So I'll put myself in position for the fall so that I can fall for them nice and easy. You have to be sincere. Don't hold back to make them work too hard, especially if it's a beginner or someone not so advanced. But be committed. So you say, okay, this is the attack. I'll give you a clean attack. It's committed. I'm relaxed with it. They've got my weight. Now it's up to them to deal with it. And then while they're dealing with it, you're following naturally exactly what they're doing. So they can actually see and feel what they're doing with the technique. Ukemi is very important. It's very important practice. You mustn't forget, like I said, it's 50% of your practice when you come into the dojo. You're going to be doing a lot of falling, and you're going to be doing the technique a lot. So you need to make sure that your attitude is aware of both things. They go hand in hand. Just because you can mechanically do the falls okay, it doesn't mean that you will be a good uke. To me, they're almost like two separate things. Uke is a different thing, because uke, you're responding to an exact moment. You're not adding anything or doing anything different. You're responding to the exact moment. So your falls have to come out instinctively. I like to start class usually when I teach is with Tai no Henko, which is body blending exercise, and it's good for uke to learn how to keep contact. Not just contact with the grip, but contact with his whole body. Holding tight is one thing, but so when somebody holds tight, it's easy just to, pull your hand away, because the whole body is very tight. But if they hold and keep the rest of the body relaxed, what happens is that they kind of stick to you. So okay, when I do this movement, he's going to stay with me. So Tai no Henko I use because it's good so they can feel the movement as they go through. Okay? Okay? He's feeling me. I'm giving him a little contact too, so I'm going, okay, wait. He holds on to that. I feel. The grip must stay. Stays firm. He's holding with his whole hand, not just his fingers. Allowing his body to be sensitive to what's happening, and if he's going off balance, he follows. At the same time, he's trying to keep a certain amount of balance. He's not just falling over for me. So that I can feel that his weight is there. So I know I'm dealing with something rather than, it's just me by myself. I have to deal with someone coming towards me. And so that's Tai no Henko at the beginning of the class is good exercise, especially for beginners, just so they can learn how to stay connected to somebody when they're holding. Okay? The other one I like to use too is when Morotatori, we do beginning class just for stretching. The same thing, allowing the body to turn, and then feeling his weight there all the time. It's like when you're falling back, you're not just falling back and giving up your weight. As you're stretching, you're trying to give back just a little bit at the same time. So I can feel that his weight is there all the time. Oh, there's a little weight. Okay, now I know I have his weight and his balance, and I can feel that his body is there. He's not just falling for me, so I can feel him. Okay? Also, what we should do also, Swarewaza is good for practicing contact, because you don't have to worry too much about the feet. You don't have to worry too much about the size of the person. When you sit in Swarewaza, we're basically the same height. Center's the same place. So I like to use Ikkyo and Nikyo, the basic pins, Ikkyo, Nikyo, Sankyo, for contact practice. Okay? So as we go forward, Uke learns how to keep contact, but I do the whole thing without holding so much. Okay? Just feeling where he is, and he's following. Okay? Allowing his whole body to move. Okay? Generally what you get, you do the technique. Someone goes to, so a lot of people do this and just fall down like so. Okay? Like they automatically give up their balance because they think, oh, I'm being thrown down. So they give up automatically and turn around and want to fall down. Okay? It's always best to be, when you're taking your ukemi, is to be aware of your partner. So you're always looking at them. You can feel my weight there all the time. He's got to a point, then goes forward, I'm still there. Now he has to turn me over. Okay. Forward. He has to take and finish. Okay, so it's not just falling over for me. If I stop, then there should be still connection. There should be no break. As I go down, still connection. Then and finish. Okay. Do the same if we do Nikyo, all around. All the time there's contact. And you do the movement slowly. A lot of people want to practice fast all the time. It's always best to practice slowly and feel what you're doing rather than just go through blindly, ikyo, nikyo, sankyo. Do the technique and be aware of what's going on all the time when you practice. Okay? And in uke at the same time, he's making sure that his body weight is there so I have something to work with when I'm doing the technique. Contact, like I said, is not only when someone's holding you, but also if you're being led or led into the movement. Okay, so say for example, we do shomen, and then I go into the stretch, and then down. Uke is being aware that, okay, Iriminagi is coming. Yes, I know Iriminagi is coming, but must stay as long as possible till I actually feel the actual throw. Again, the attitude, oh, give up the balance. Oh, okay, I know he's going to throw now, so start my fall. Yeah? So again, like to practice, so there's almost like a little pause just before you throw, so you can feel up, they still want to keep their balance, falling, then the throw. And then Uke is following that as they go down. And then with experience, obviously, as you get faster, quicker, you can put a little more into the technique or do it faster. And Uke does all that at that speed. But first of all, it's important to do the whole thing nice and slow first. Switch. And then down. Okay, we also can do that, like I said, with Morotatori. The stretch, contact, then down. So again, we're not looking at speed when we do the movement. We're trying to feel that Uke is there, present all the time with the movement. Not just falling away just because that's time to be thrown. Contact is, like I said, it's a total body thing. It's not just the grab. Remember, as I'm moving, they want to make sure that that contact is there. Okay? I want to be able to feel that their body is there. They're not resisting, but they're giving me their body weight, so I can go, oh, okay. Now, that's what I have to deal with. It's like, oh, okay, that's what I have to deal with. So you have something there that's positive to work with. It's not negative. Okay? It's all right somebody standing there and just going, and there's nothing to work with. That's easy to, either to resist or hold back from, or let go. But when I'm attacking, I want to be sensitive to them. Keep that grip. The whole body wants to move. Okay? I want my balance to follow all the time. Okay? So all these things are important. Ushiro Tsukubutori. Okay? Everything must be tight, holding. Yeah? So that when I'm moving, they still want to keep hold. That way I can do whatever technique I wish to do. Okay? Okay? Contact all the time. All the time there is contact. Okay? all the time, contact. Okay, I'm aware where Uke's balance is. They're keeping hold. They're allowing the body to be flexible, so they're allowing the joints to move, so that I have something to work with. So I know if I'm controlling Uke's body correctly or not. Okay, now we'll look at a little bit more commitment. Commitment is in the sense of if they're aiming at a particular part, whether it be tsuki, yokomen, and shomen, that they follow that movement through, not just pause to give the person a chance to move or whatever. It's much more honest if you follow the attack through. If the person's a beginner or lesser rank or not of higher ability, all you have to do is slow the movement down but still continue it through. Then they get to learn how to deal with something that's continually coming towards them. Iran, please, if I... Say, for example, at ski, sometimes you get, when someone punches and then you say punch, they've stopped the punch all the way here. So they come and say, okay, it's ski, and it stops. And to me, that's not really doing anything because I can stand here and not bother about the technique. I need something that's coming towards me. So if he's going to hit, I want to feel that he's going to hit. So when he's there, I move because I know this is going to hit me. So that gives me incentive to make sure that my technique is done correctly, or that I move, or that I'm not standing there. Okay? So when you attack, make sure you aim at the actual target that you're aiming for. Okay? Rather than just hold it in front, or to attack real slow and softly and aim off center. Or because I'm going over here, so partner aims over there somewhere to make it easy for you to move. It's much more honest to aim at the target. Same with shomen, follow it through so it's coming towards the head. So if I go to move, it's going to continue to go through. That gives me, again, something to work with when I'm doing the technique, because it's there. So then that gives me incentive to move and gives me movement to follow with my technique. So all this is important. Aim for the target. Don't aim off center. Okay, still looking at the commitment issue of technique. Again, Iran, please. Again, we're using Yokomen Uchi this time. Okay, we have the contact. We have his body weight forward. So he's aiming for me. So this is the target. So I know if I don't protect myself, that I know it's going to reach me. Okay? So it's very important to make sure that the attack's there. That allows me, again, to continue into my movement to create my technique. Okay, I can feel his body weight all the time, so it gives me something to work with. Okay? Sometimes I see this kind of thing, so I'll attack Yokomen. As I attack to do the Yokomen, some people do this. Go ahead, enter. And they do that. It's like they're trying to force the body here, but there's no connection to what's happening here. Okay? Rather than as they go forward, okay, they can feel that something's here, so they want to be aware that that's there, but keeping the commitment of the contact there. The intention is if to still want to strike, not to move away from it. Okay, so it must stay there. That gives him the reality then, so he can complete his technique. Okay? But if there's no commitment, it doesn't give any contact and there's no sincerity behind it. He has nothing really to work with. So there's no reason why, if this happens, there's no reason for him to use the attention to create the attention that he wants for the person to be aware that, hey, there's a fist here. Now if you're not attentive to this, then they'll use this. So if they're attentive to this, then okay. Then I can do my technique. So contact is there. They're staying sincere because they're making it stay what they were aiming for. So that gives me something to work with. So all these things are important. In all that we've talked about so far, it's important to be able to relax and do all that at the same time. Not just with, like I said, with your body, but also mentally too, because you don't know what's going to happen, so you can't anticipate and you can't afford to be heavy-footed and not be able to catch up with technique. So all relaxation is important so that you can do that. So, let's see. Please. We did before, Tai no Henko. Now we're using, like we do in Kokyu, yeah? Over the top. Yeah? Allowing Uke to stretch, stay relaxed at the same time. Okay? So it's also good practice to do this at the beginning of class, not just so much for the stretch, but all those elements we've talked about already. Contact. Okay? Contact is there. They're allowing the body to move with what's going on. They're not just standing there. As I'm moving, they're allowing the whole body to transmit that movement, and then stretching for the relaxation part. Then following through naturally to the fall. So sometimes I like to practice doing techniques where you actually pause just a little bit just before you throw, which I mentioned earlier. Then do the technique. Right? The other thing I see too is a lot of people, when you go forward, they stick their face forward. So as you go to move up, they get hit as they go forward. Okay? So the body may be moving or so, but it's always best to stay real close into Uke. Yeah? Don't try to hang out here. Okay? That way I know also that if that's good, then I know myself when I'm doing my technique to get nice and close so I can control the body much better and throw. Okay. Stretch. Throw. And you can see speed is not necessary all the time. Okay, the lead, and the stretch, and the throw. And the throw. Okay, and as I said, as they get more experience, you can do this quicker or more vigorous or a little bit more power. So then the fall becomes stronger, so use the other falls we did before. Okay? But it doesn't take away from the reality of the technique. I can feel the body there all the time. They're following me through, keeping contact. That's very important. And staying relaxed so they don't get hit or the joints don't get tight. Okay? Okay, again, going back to what we did before, we were doing Suwaiwaza. Okay? Allowing the body to stretch. So allowing the whole thing to move. So being relaxed, so allowing the body to go all the way over so it can stretch to come down, so it can keep contact. Okay. The contact. Okay. One more time. Here's the contact. The showman is there. I know to protect myself. Yeah. Okay, following the movement through. Okay, so it's important to relax, not be tight. If I'm being thrown, I want to make sure that my body can follow the movement correctly, not be tense. So you've got to relax mentally, let your body be loose. You have your contact, you're sincere, you're going through, aiming at the target that you want, and you're making nage work to make sure that they do the technique correctly. It's important to be relaxed because in general you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, in the dojo practice environment, the instructor shows the technique and then you practice it. But in my own experience, having to take ukemi for different shihan or taking ukemi for Yamada Sensei, you're never sure what's going to happen all the time. So you've got to be able to do all these other elements of being sincere and committed and keeping contact with him, but at the same time staying relaxed so that they can demonstrate and show the technique as they wish to show it, and not adding or taking away from what they're trying to do. So being able to stay relaxed is very important. And to me, one of the hardest things is keeping relaxed, especially when you don't know what's going to happen to you. They get you in a position, you think, holy smokes, what's going on here? And then you want to tighten up the body or just to hold back just a little bit because you don't know what's going to happen. But I guarantee you, if that happens or you go to do that, especially taking ukemi from someone like Yamada Sensei or that caliber, you're you're either going to really feel the technique or get hurt. So it's always best to commit yourself and be honest, but also remember, stay relaxed, mentally relaxed, so your body can move with what's going on. Now we get on to the sincerity part. It's important to be sincere with the attack so that you follow through or you aim at the target that you wanted. Like I said before, you need your, let's, for example, like I said earlier, say for instance we have a punch, that we make sure that the punch is aiming at the target and that if I move that it's going to follow through. Okay? That encourages me to make sure that I move my body correctly at the beginning of the movement and that I protect myself so I can do the technique. Right? So they're following through so I can move and do my form. So, your community, please. Make sure it follows through. Yeah? Follows through. Don't hang it in the air, because then when you try to move and there's no contact there, there's no reason to move. So you need the whole movement there. Okay. Once again. Okay, so make sure that you follow through the technique. Make sure it goes. So I'm aiming at the target if it's yokumen, shomen. If it's ski, I make sure I'm aiming at the target. Okay, don't hold back, because then that's not being fair to uke when they do the technique, and they won't be able to move correctly with the right incentive unless you commit to the attack. Okay, so that's very important. And more tutorial, please. The other thing is if you ask for grip, make sure that you hold firm. But like one of the subjects we covered before, relax so that you can actually hold firm and still allow movement at the same time. Okay? Hold firm, but still allow for movement. Just move around just a little bit. Okay, so make sure the contact is there. Hold firm, but keep the joints loose so it allows you to move freely. All that information is going to the body so that you can respond. Okay. Hold firm, but still allow for movement at the same time. Okay. Just move around just a little bit. Okay, so make sure the contact is there. Hold firm, but keep the joints loose so it allows you to move freely. All that information is going to the body so that you can respond. Okay, so for instance, a situation like this, when you want someone to hold, like they, commit themselves and hold firmly. Okay, so that gives me, again, incentive to move. He's got hold of me, so I know that I must make sure that the movement I'm doing is correct, because he's holding. Okay. Okay. So he's aiming for that target. So if he's trying to grab, that allows me to move freely into the movement. Okay. And it gives something for uke to follow, because he's aiming at something and he's trying to get hold of it. Okay. So make sure, again, with any attack that you do, like I said, if you're holding wrist, be clear. If you're holding elbow, be clear. If you're holding shoulder, be clear. If it's shomen, be clear. Then they have a clear intention of what's happening so they can respond and move correctly so they can do the technique. So let me just reiterate a few things and sort of clarify a couple of things that in general, as far as safety aspect and keeping a nice line when you take ukemi. For example, Shihonagi, talking about people waiting too late, waiting too long before the technique actually happens, before they're being thrown. If I do yokumen, I'm attacking uke like so. A lot of people always keep their feet still. So they go, when we're talking about following, and then uke is going, nage is continuing to go through, everything's getting tightened up, he turns around, locks everything up, and they wonder why everything hurts at the same time. Yeah? So you need to keep these joints relaxed, and you need to keep your body in line. So if Uke is moving me around, I want to make sure that I follow him. Yeah? I'm following his movement. But I'm giving him my weight at the same time, but I'm also aware that I'm trying to keep my own balance at the same time. So I'm giving him the contact. I'm being sincere because I'm trying to follow him through. I'm giving him the commitment of my body weight. I'm not taking anything away from him, so he has to lead. And I'm keeping myself relaxed at the same time. So trying to maintain my balance and follow him at the same time. Yeah? Okay? Rather than attacking and keeping the body in the tense position like that. Keep going. And then find that you can't fall. Or it gets tight. Or you have to jump over because your arm's tight. And so in that way, in some cases, you might injure yourself. So that's very important. And then, like we did with Ukemi before, if he goes a little faster and he turns, all I have to do is follow the whole thing down so it allows myself to do the Ukemi that we did before. But notice, I don't have to jump in it. Jump with it. I'm still following him down with this movement while I'm trying to keep my balance. Yeah. Another one, for example, is Nikkyo. When someone does Nikkyo, they go, and they tighten up and they go, oh, that hurts. Obviously, because they're pulling themselves away from it and tightening their arm up at the same time. It's important that, again, contact, follow. Giving him my body weight so he has to work with it. Okay? Follow, let the joints bend. I stay connected to him. He does the movement. So I make him work with the technique, but not take away anything from it. So he's practicing the technique, he's feeling what's going on, he's dealing with my body, my weight, and he's learning how to manipulate the joints and control them. So these things are important. So if you practice all these ingredients correctly, then you'll be keeping yourself safe. So you won't get hurt, because that's also important. You don't want to keep coming to class every day and having to leave because of injury. So if you consider all these points, it will help you to create a safer situation to practice. So you can practice the techniques at whatever intensity that your level is when you improve as you go up. So all these things are very critical. So we need to make sure that there's always a contact. Keep the joints loose. Don't tighten them up. Okay? I do Sankyo. He learns how to follow, learns how to respond with the movement. Okay? Keep the joints loose. Doesn't do anything more. If I stop, then he'll stop. So I go, okay, then he stops. So I know that, okay, if I want to keep him moving, I must keep applying what I need for the control of the movement. Okay? Thank you. Another form of technique that people have problems with a lot of time is like a koshinagi because of the height situation and so on. And then the so-called high folds or break folds. As you've seen, the folds that I tend to use don't jump up into the air, even though there's situations where there's projections involved, but also keep the attitude that I'm always trying to maintain a round situation or make a ball or to do a roll. That whether you're off the mat or not, it's always good to try and keep the mind with that intention. So I'm always want to do a front roll, or I always want to do a Yoko Kaiten type fall, which is always round, and it's on the mat, not in the air. When you're in the air flailing around, there's nothing there, so gravity is going to eventually take you to the ground. So wait until your body starts to come down before you actually initiate your roll position. Just for example's sake, we take Yoko Kaiten, which we've covered a lot and shown how it's used in technique. To me, that is my high fall, rather than what you see generally. Okay, my high fall is this situation. Okay, what you generally see is a situation where Uke goes over like so and does a high fall and comes over the top. Okay? Which I'm not disagreeing with to that extent. If the person is young and so on and they want to fall and do that, that's perfectly fine. But as the years go on and you still want to continue practicing with the same kind of intensity, I personally think then it has to change. I mean, I've taken Ukemi for many years and so from different teachers, and so the Ukemi that I've developed or come up with, or the things that I think are important in Ukemi, I try to use because it's come from direct experience, not something that I've created out the air. You know, I've been in situations where I've got hurt or almost hurt, or felt that oh, that was too tight, or I didn't respond correctly. What can I do to make that better? How can I move my body in a better fashion so that situation doesn't occur again? So I've examined all these points through the years. I myself used to take the fall in that situation when I started going over and down and smacking the mat, which is, like I said, is perfectly fine. I was younger then, had all, body was much, more supple and whatever, and had the youthful side of you, so practicing like that is not generally incorrect. But as you get older, you want to still have that intensity, but soften it a little bit, so you got that same feeling. Again, for example, if I take Shihonagi, we do Shihonagi. Generally speaking, when someone does Ukemi, it's this sort of situation. They want to sort of throw themselves over before they actually feel the pain or feel that the whole joint is locked up. But there's a much easier way. If the body's relaxed and you still have that intention of, as we did before, I can still do my fall on the mat. I mean, it'll be a little quicker and so on, but I'm not in the air. I'm following the movement down. I'm not trying to jump over him. Okay, I'm allowing my body to follow. So I'm keeping safe all the time. Not trying to be. Don't keep the body tight. If the body falling like in one piece, rather than making everything be round, let each part of the body move separately but together. Okay. For example, same. Okay. It can be done like so, because it's a little bit more vigorous, so it's a little higher on the ground, off the mat. But I'm still keeping the same form as I did before. But if even looser still, you can make the whole thing still be on the mat rather than in the air. So it's, again, it's just practice, but try and be aware of that all the time. So that's why I've developed this type of Ukemi. It seems much more natural to take the fall to the mat, following what the technique is being done, what's been happening with the technique, rather than to try and escape from the technique. If I allow myself to follow naturally, it'll naturally take me into the fall that I need to use for that particular technique. The other thing that I want to look at is a little bit of Koshinagi, with people when it's a little higher up. Just to use for an example, okay. Uke's off the mat and you're being thrown over the top, people go, oh, that's a long way down. But again, using the same principle of just staying relaxed so you can go over, I also use this as sometimes to do exercises so they can practice being over something that's high, and then again practicing all those different falls that we did. So for example, going over without feeling like they have to be, that it's high. Usually when people do Koshinagi, they go over with the body like this, stiff, like a board. So they go over and their body's like in this position, and they go over and it's like, boom, bang, right? So it's always best, like I said, to relax. That word relax again is there. So if he, for example, if he does Koshinagi and he's actually throwing me and I'm going over, I can be in a situation where I can roll off him. Not taking away anything that he's doing. If he's doing it a little quicker, then maybe I'll hold just for support. But I'm still using the same folds as I go over. okay, rather than staying tight. But it's good practice to be able to think of, oh, I can roll out of that, okay, rather than going over tight, being in a tight position. Another technique that I think of that people are a little afraid of sometimes is techniques, for instance, like Jujinagi, where they have no arms, okay? When they're in a position where, like so, and they think, oh, can't use my arms, and as you go to throw, they tighten up or they want to pull one of them away, thinking they have to reach the mat, okay? I mean, it's twofold. If the technique is done correctly, you have to lead them nicely and directly into the fall that they need to do. But again, it has the same feeling. Even if I hold it up a little bit, Uke still waits for gravity to take them down in that position so they go down. Okay? So if I was doing Marotatori, for example, okay, it allows, I can still go through firmly and not worrying about her arms are being hurt because she's allowing the body to respond. It's not tight. Okay? And then as the throw is going down, gravity obviously is taking it to the mat, so she begins to do the fall as she's reaching the mat. But notice the body's not tight. It doesn't hit the mat in one piece. It just goes over nice and smoothly with the intention of thinking, oh, I have to roll. Just lower the body down. What goes into being uke, you also have the same qualities when you be nage. You're trying to respond to the attack, you're trying to blend with your attacker, you're trying to feel where their body is, you're trying to be sensitive to their balance, you're trying to control that, you're trying to keep contact with that. Being ukemi, you're doing exactly the same thing. From the other side, you're committing, you're giving them commitment, you're giving them contact so they have something positive to use. You're giving them your body weight. You're not doing the movement for them. You're letting them work to take your balance. And while you're taking your balance, you're trying to maintain your balance. So it gives the technique movement, and it gives it the contact, and it gives them the reality that something's always coming at them, or there's something that's always moving. So they have to learn how to control it and how to redirect it in whatever direction that they wish to, using the technique at the time of practice. So to me, I think of them as the same thing. They have the same qualities. You get resistance in technique. People will resist. Resistance is a good tool if it's constructive. If it's just, I'm not allowing you to throw me, or I'm seeing it to you, so you can't throw me. To me, that's not really fair. If I stop someone's technique, it's because there is a gap in the technique, or there's a drastic fault that's there, or they're not actually taking my balance. So I'll stop it at that point so they're aware of that, and sort of move myself into position that they need to have me for the technique to continue. So I'll stop the technique in that manner, not in the manner of, that I'm seeing it to them, so I'll show that how much more stronger or better than I am because I can stop the technique. In general speaking, we all know the technique, so there is the quality of being able to stop someone's technique anyway because we know what's happening. But it's not good practice because the person can change the technique. They don't have to do that particular technique. If they feel that there's a resistance coming, then you should change the direction of that technique into something else. So ukemi is important. So you should allow yourself to follow the movement that's being done. Give them the commitment, give them the contact, be sincere with it, so they have something positive to work with. The ukemi it's a tool. It's giving you all the qualities that you have within an attack to work with, to be to try and get sensitive to. There's the physical attack. There's the body mass, the person's body weight that's behind that attack. There's the intention of that attack, whether it's serious or if it's going to cause serious damage and so on. So you have the choice to make the technique severe or not severe. All these things. But it's giving you all the ingredients of an attack to deal with, ingredients of conflict. You know, we don't want to fight with the partner, because that's not what Aikido is about. It's about resolving conflict rather than confronting it. You know, we confront it, and if we have to deal with it, then we learn how to resolve it, or to lead it, or to dissipate it. So no, I don't get injured, or the partner doesn't get injured. But obviously there is the choice. You can make it hurt, or you don't have to make it hurt. So Ukemi is, you know, it's a tool. It's a working tool that's there for you to learn your technique. But it's also teaching you qualities that you must take with you when you're also being nage also. You know, because like I said, to me they go hand in hand, and you're learning the same qualities from both.